Guys, welcome in. We're continuing our predictions. So far, we are through 2 weeks plus the 1 week zero game we covered between Florida State and Georgia Tech. And speaking of those disappointing Seminoles, they are on the chopping block for our predictions today as Florida State is a 6.5 point favorite against the Memphis Tigers at 11 o'clock on Saturday. Guys, it could get real scary if Florida State, if they don't take care of business. And we're not talking about a slouch in Memphis. Chase, how you feeling about the Tigers coming down to Tallahassee?
I actually got to watch the Tigers in person this year, which was pretty cool. A lot of these guys, I kind of looked over some of their rosters and stuff like that. A lot of these guys aren't just like, oh, we got recruited to Memphis. These are transfers from Ole Miss, from Michigan, from Big 12 schools. I'm trying to think of some that I had that I heard about, but these aren't just any slouches like, oh, we just got to Memphis. No, these are Power Four guys that just came down to the Group Five, and they're massive human beings. I believe I remember their entire offensive line are all seniors or redshirt juniors, and they're all over like 6'5", 300 pounds. Monster offensive line. They have a great quarterback. And I was actually kind of worried about talking about this game. I actually kind of didn't want to, but I did at the same point because I was like, oh, we got to talk about Florida State again. We already did. And now we got to bring it back up. And I'm not feeling too good for Florida State, even though this is in Doak Campbell Stadium. This is a big, and if this would have been at Memphis, you could have wrote me in, punched a ticket, and said, "Hey, Chase is going with Memphis all day long." And honestly, I still am. I think Memphis has a shot to be a really, really good team. There's Tulane and then there's Memphis. If you watched our Tulane video, you already know that's my pick to go with the group of five playoff team. But I think Memphis has a really, really good shot too. They've looked really good all year long. They played Troy. They played Troy very soundly. I thought that would be a lot closer game. It wasn't. But you have a reeling Florida State. A Florida State that can't seem to find their identity anywhere. They have no gusto about them. DJU has not looked like a quarterback that he was at Oregon State. And I think this is a make or break game. You lost to Georgia Tech, and then you hosted Boston College, I believe it was,
Yep.
and you lost to Boston College. I think Boston College is the ACC version of what Vandy has been the last decade for the SEC. Boston College is not a good team. They have a couple good players that have went to the draft, and that they're not a good team. And Florida State, who just came off an undefeated ACC championship season, besides their bowl game, should not have even gotten close to losing to Boston College, and not even Boston College. All three of us as Alabama aficionados, they are coached by Bill O'Brien, who we watched just absolutely sever the Alabama offense for year after year with amazing talent. And Florida State lost to him. That has me worried, has me pressing the panic button. I'm going to press it even more. I'm going to go Memphis in this game. I think they're going to be extremely strong. They're going to be sound. They know how to play ball. They can play from behind and they can control a game. I've watched it both ways. And I think they're a really good offense that knows what they're doing. They have an identity. And I think that's the strongest thing. They are very senior led, kind of like what Florida State was last year. Very senior led. They have a lot of experience on this team. They're going to do really well in this game. I'm going to give it to Memphis in a very, very close game.
So this is a game that if you're Memphis, you have to win this game. Um, this is one of those games that will propel you above any other group of five team in the country at the end of the year. If all the dust settles and it's between them, Tulane, Boise State. Boise State had their opportunity against Oregon, came close. Tulane had their opportunity against Kansas State, came very, very close. This is a game that if you're Memphis, if you at least don't play this game close, you're not getting in over those other teams if all the dust settles, they have the same record and things like that. This is a game that will get you into the playoffs come into the year because you beat the group of or the Power Four team that was on your schedule. Now Tulane has another opportunity this upcoming week, and we're going to talk about that game as well. Um, yeah, DJU is hot doo doo. Their entire offense is bad. He looks like he has cinder blocks for feet. He's slow. The defense gets pushed around like nobody's business. And keep in mind, Mike Norvell came from Memphis to
Good.
Florida State. So you know that that game is going to be hyped up in the Memphis locker room for those reasons as well. Um, I have a hard time picking a group of 5 team to beat a Power 5 team. I think Florida State wins this game, but I think it is just like the Tulane and Kansas State game where at the end, Memphis has a chance to win and they don't get it done. I think it's a very tight game. I would probably take Memphis in the points if I'm a betting man. I think it'll be a 3 or 4 point win for Florida State, but very difficult game here. Not an easy one. They could start 0-3, and it would just be fire Mike Norvell season for Florida State fans if it's not already, which I have a feeling it is.
See, so I want to start by addressing one thing. Boston College with Bill O'Brien, say what you want about him, he has a lot of experience. And the reason they beat Florida State is because they beat Florida State at all the little things throughout the game consistently. And I think a lot of that is due to Bill O'Brien's like experience in the NFL and at a high-end college program like Alabama. But to look at this specific matchup, man, Memphis, man, I'll say this, they don't necessarily have to win this game because you play in the same conference as Tulane. So as long as them and Tulane are both looking really good all year, you can beat Tulane, win the American. There goes one of your competition points, and now you're being compared to other conference champions in the G5. And any American conference champion is going to have a leg up. They usually play higher competition, even in their non-con games. So that's boding well for Memphis. But outside of that, man, let's look at the games. First off, absolutely dismantled Troy. I was so impressed with that. That game was not really that competitive. Memphis looked super good. And then from the jump, they were beating down on North Alabama, which for Florida State fans, they might realize not necessarily the easiest thing in the world to do. So Memphis actually put a smackdown on them from the jump of that game. Florida State, on the other hand, has looked abysmal, man. They look so exposed. And Freddie, you brought up a great point when you're talking about this is a huge win for Memphis. You win this, and you've automatically catapulted yourself to the driver's seat of G5, and everyone else is looking at you, hoping you mess up, right? Like that's where they'll sit. And Memphis long term is in a really good spot out of all the G5 schools to dominate at that level because of the money they're now getting from like FedEx and the eyes on that program as far as how big the university is. That being said, Florida State has lost 2 games and they are not losing 3. This is not going to happen. Florida State is not going to lose to Memphis. I know it's a fun story. We all want it to happen so badly. I'm right there with you. I think it would be hilarious. I'm rooting for Memphis on Saturday, but I'm not picking them on here. I got a lead in the predictions to protect, and I'm not putting my lead on the line, picking Memphis to upset Florida State and watching a Seminoles team that went undefeated in the regular season last year, won the ACC title game, turn around and start 0-3 in 2024, losing to Boston College, Georgia Tech, and Memphis. They haven't even played Miami or Clemson yet. The toughest team on their preseason in your mind was probably Georgia Tech, and you weren't thinking that highly of them. So I just don't think at some point the dead horse stops getting beaten. And I don't think I don't see it continuing for another week on Florida State. So give me Florida State to cover. I think they probably win by about 10 or 13 points. We'll see. But I mean, don't have.
Florida State has to win a game.
They have to. They can't start 0-3. I refuse to believe. If they start 0-3, first off, I'll be on here on Monday wearing nothing but blue and silver and white, cheering on Memphis as the top G5 team and absolutely taking a dump all over Florida State, which I'll be doing all season anyway because they're going to lose more games. I just don't think it's going to be this one.
Well, I think we got on last week. Like, there's just no way they lose to Boston College. No, there's no way they lose to Boston College. And then they ended up losing. That's why, like, 0-3, it does sound crazy. It even sounds crazy to me, and definitely to a group of 5 team.
Well, remember the Boston College games last year was 31-29. Florida State barely won, almost got upset last year as well.
Yeah, but see, that was on the road, and it was a red bandana game, and there was all that extra stuff that went into it.
But Florida State was better last year. So, like,
Yeah, that's
you saw
true.
in week 1 that they're worse. So
Yeah, Florida
I
State
don't
was
know.
immensely better. That's the problem. Florida State does not have nearly, definitely on the defensive line. That's the big thing. Nearly the manpower that they did last year, the talent. That's why I'm so concerned with them. And I don't think it falls just. I think DJU, if he doesn't figure it out, guy's got to get benched. I think he's the biggest problem. You can't move your offense without your quarterback going before you. And they're
Yeah.
trying to put him in a throwing heavy offense that brother just is not capable of doing. What do they say on the internet? DJU, put the fries in the bag. Like, what are you doing? Like, you are just not capable of playing quarterback right now. So he's got to show up this game. I think that's the biggest thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see if he shows up. I personally, again, the reason I'm just not convinced Memphis is going to absolutely bully him on the line of scrimmage to establish a run game in the same way that Georgia Tech and Boston College did. But I didn't think Georgia Tech or Boston College were going to do it either. So I guess we're going to have to see. Guys, if you like this content, we got more just like it. We do predictions every single week. Right now, we're on week 3. We got one more coming out covering the Tulane, Oklahoma game. If you want to see that, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, get engaged. We love to see it. And with that being said, I've been Quinn with 3 Bold Takes, joined by Freddie, Chase, and we're out.